Victoria City Expats Club is a non-profit social organisation and our speakers are volunteers. The club as such assumes no responsibility or liability for the professional reputation of or the quality of services provided by the speaker today.
Do as a big fundraising thing, and then COVID came along, but who knows, maybe I'll make it public. Anyway, this is a woman who makes Australia look good. Not like me. Margie Granger, great to have you back.
Thank you. How long have I got? Because I'll keep you here all day and night.
Well, usual 45 minutes.
45 minutes, perfect. All right, great. So, yeah, the COVID fallout. So everyone had the effects of COVID on their lives and their businesses and their communities. And of course, Hand to Hand was no different. I was actually in the US when COVID was declared a pandemic. So basically every 3 or 4 years, a church in Canada says, we need to see you. They pay my flight. And then I'm like, I'm on that side of the pond. If you want to see me, you pay the next flight to the next destination. So it doesn't cost me anything, but the thing is I'm flying on tickets that other people bought. So when COVID happened, I couldn't just say I'm going to ditch the rest of my US tour and come back to Thailand. So by the time I was coming back, Thailand closed its borders to foreigners, and I had no choice but to go back to Australia. Which wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but then Australia wouldn't let me out. So you were allowed to leave Australia if you were going for family reasons or you're going for work. I'm on a volunteer visa. I don't get paid by the foundation. So even though I could prove that I was the vice president of the foundation, Australia said, you're not leaving for work, you're leaving for volunteering purposes, you cannot leave the country. So I got stuck there for 2 years. Which means I had to run Hand to Hand remotely, which was an interesting experience. So some days I was on Zoom calls for up to 5 hours a day. But you know, I learned a lot, we grew a lot, and things have changed, and some things will never go back to the way they were, and that's okay, because it's been a time of transition. So our kids club got closed down. There was no kids club because of COVID. We had to close that down. But we did start that up last week. And last Saturday, we had over 80 kids show up for our kids club. So it was one of the biggest turnouts we've ever had, which was really amazing. So the kids are desperate to get back. So we played games, and we're looking at how we can restructure that. And our kids club is going to look a little bit different. We've got 2 definite groups, older and younger. So we're dividing them into 2 different sections. We're going to be running English classes, which we were before. But in addition to that, what we found out is a lot of these kids don't have life skills. So for our older kids, we're going to implement 10-week courses on life skills. They're going to learn how to cook. They're going to learn how to sew. They're going to learn all those kinds of things. And, you know, they grow up in the slums. And so, yeah, their mom teaches them how to make kalpat and kalpat and kalpat, because that's all the resources you've got. You don't have the money to go and buy the ingredients to make masaman and all those other kinds of things. So the cooking course is going to be very simple. How do I make jork? How do I make kalpat? How do I make masaman gai? How do I make all those other dishes as well? So that's a new thing. And we're going to be introducing puppets. So we're going to be starting to teach the children puppets. We've got a company called Pubits, and they've donated 12 puppets to us. They're 30 centimeter puppets. And so the children are going to learn a new skill. And also it's going to be an avenue for, sometimes it's easy to talk about my issues through a puppet than it is to talk face to face. So yes, it's going to be puppet training skills. We're going to be putting on puppet shows. But the sneaky side of this is a child who's really struggling to express their emotions and tell their story could tell their story through a puppet. So that's some of the new things that will be going on in our kids club. Prison got closed down. But I did talk to the Chief of Police in Banglamung yesterday, and he is more than happy for us to go back. So next Tuesday, we're going to start going back to the prisons every Tuesday and Thursday. So that involves taking food, medicine, clothing, and the police are very, very keen for us to go and clean. We are normally the only people who clean the jail. We haven't been in there for 2 years. So just kind of let your imagination go wild. They can't get the prisoners to clean it because they're all weapons. So a big push for, if you're thinking of buying a new toilet brush or mop or broom or bucket, you got an old one that you can donate. When I clean the prison, I can't take those things back to my center because I don't know what diseases are on them. I don't want to go buy brand new toilet cleaning brushes to clean the prison. So appeal for a very unusual thing. You got any old toilet cleaning brushes, buckets, mops, brooms, you're thinking of getting a new one, don't throw it away because in about a month's time I'm going to need those. So I can arrange, maybe in 2 weeks to come back with my pickup truck, and anyone who's got any of those things that you could give us, that would be great. Hospital got shut down. So we haven't been into the hospital for over 2 years, and we're not likely to get in there anytime soon, just because of COVID and all of those kinds of things. But that doesn't mean we haven't been helping. So we've been working with the nurses and the doctors and the staff at the hospital, providing Pampers for the babies, milk for the babies. So, the stories of a mum goes to the hospital, has a baby, abandons the baby in the hospital, those stories haven't stopped. And if anything, they've got worse. So the hospital doesn't have Pampers, milk, clothes for these brand new babies. So we've been making sure that we've been keeping up the supplies, but we haven't actually been able to go in ourselves. So that was another one that got shut down. Football, to our children's great displeasure, football was shut down. So it's been 2 years, so a lot of our kids have now outgrown the program. So when we start it up again, they won't be rejoining because they were 16, but they're now 18. They've left school, they've left the area, but we will be opening up football again come August. And why August? Because our football coaches come from the international schools. International schools have got 5 weeks of school left. They go home for the holidays, and then when they come back, we'll start it up again. But we're very blessed because Pattius Prince Base contacted me last week and said, if you open up your football club, we'll do new uniforms for you. I'm like, yes. So, and talking to the Chief of Police from Banglamung yesterday, his son's very interested in football. So he's going to join too. So football was a great activity for our kids because, again, they can't afford to go join the football clubs. They don't have the football boots. And the whole football thing started about 4 years ago because I got an invitation from the St. Andrews International School, and the invite read, we're having a great day of fun, food, rides, and soccer. Would you like to come? I thought, yeah, that sounds great. So I showed up with 32 kids, tracksuit pants, flip-flops, never having played a game of soccer in their life, to an international school football tournament. So I very quickly had to arrange these kids into groups. We lost every game. But at the end of the day, everyone was like, who are these kids that are having the best day of their lives, even though they're losing every game? So we walked out of there with a sponsor and coaches, went back the next year and picked up the age championship trophy. And our key weapon was that most of these international school kids are used to air-conditioned classrooms, houses, vans. So after lunch, they're hot and they're pooped. But our kids that come from the slum, it's hot, hot, and hotter. We don't care. So we win every game after lunch. So we might not be the best skills, but we've got the most amount of endurance. So we'll be starting up the football club come again in August. So the kids have been asking already, when are we going to start? So we've got lots of football boots, and we keep getting donations of those. And again, when we have a surplus, so we had a big surplus of football boots, and a guy came down last month, and he's running a football club up near Chiang Mai, Shanghai. So we filled his car with football boots and footballs and pumps and everything, because we know someone's going to give us more. and that's the way hand to hand is. It's for us, it's not our stuff. Yesterday, another organization that's just opening up, and they want to teach English. And she arrived at my center and said, have you got anything that will help me teach English? And I said, Esther, come and have a look. Whatever you want, it's yours. So what we get, we try to make sure that we share it between other people. We're going through clothes distributions yesterday. Loads of really nice jackets and socks and blankets. So they're going off to Chiang Mai next week. So everything that we get, we don't keep for ourselves. So there were lots of things that did close down. But some things that didn't close down, well, our preschool semi-closed down. We were able to keep it going for a while, but when Pattaya went into quarantine, into lockdown, we had to close our preschool. And that was very sad for our children and our families for many reasons, because the preschool isn't just where they come to learn. The preschool is a place where they come and they get a meal once a day. It's a place where they come and they get medicine. And so we did our best to support the families. So they were coming to us once a week. They were receiving food. And we were sending home care packages of work to do. So, oh, thank you. You're a champion. There we go. Kids Club. Pointing it at the wrong place. Oh, going too far now. Sorry, that was me being impatient. Okay, so here's our preschool. So this was our preschool pre-COVID. And lots of kids, lots of fun, lots of freedom. And then this is COVID. So what happened with our families was most of them are garbage recyclers. And there's no tourists. So there's no plastic water bottles to collect. There's no emptying boxes of different things to collect secondhand cardboard. So the people at the bottom end of the totem pole were actually the first ones to really feel the effects of this, and they simply couldn't afford to feed their families, and so they picked up their families and they moved to rural areas of Thailand. And now there's a really big problem now that school's gone back, because so many children have left the heavily populated areas like Bangkok, Pattaya, gone to the rural areas where they can live on the farm with the family, and these little tiny rural schools have enormous amounts of students that they can't contain. So there's been a huge shift of population, and we saw that early on. So we tried to keep our centre open, socially distancing on chairs and masks and everything, but we ended up having to go to online learning, at-home learning. So we sent the kids home with packages of work and pencils and all those fun things, but my mum and dad don't read and write. So my mum and dad can't help me with the work. My mum and dad can't tell me what the worksheet's telling me to do. So we kept them busy. And we made sure that they had food, because that's a big part of our preschool program, as well as making sure that they have food. And so now we're back. We're opened up again. We've got our own hospital going, so if you're sick, treatment's free. So obviously, you've seen lots of people getting vaccinated, so there we are, role-playing that as well. So we're back, we're masked, we're socially distancing, we're complying with government regulations. And so whilst I was stuck in Australia, I had time to write grants. So a company in America called Donaldson said you can apply for a grant for STEM education, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. So I said, okay, I'm going to hit the technology part of that, and I'm going to apply for a grant for computers. So we were allowed to apply for a grant for up to $10,000. I applied for $11,500 and got it. So we've now got computers in our preschool. And again, you know, learning had to go back to online. These kids' families don't have tablets. They don't have smartphones. So they get to school and they're behind their peers to start with. So we bought some computers, and then I realized I couldn't run the programs that I wanted on the computers because the programs I really wanted were apps. And you need a tablet for an app, not a computer. So we now have computers and tablets, and that's all come out of the grant money. And so this is this guy here, he's Safe, the guy in the grey. So we've been looking after him since he was a little boy. He was growing up in the Gopai slum, took care of his mother until she died of diabetes when he was about 14. So we, instead of sending him to an orphanage or an all-boys home, we took him in as a foster care child. So he's now grown up, and he's now in 3rd year vocational school doing computer studies. So he's now helping us out at the preschool whenever he's got time, making sure all our machines are running properly, helping teach the kids about computers. We moved him out of the foster care situation, and now he's in a room where he has to budget his own money to cook, to clean, and then the next step is when he's finished his vocational, he's got a job, he'll be able to go out and live on his own. So he's one of our success stories. So slum. This is slum before COVID. So we would package up packages and put them in the truck, and we would go and visit about 85 to 100 families a week. And we would take them care packages, and we would visit them in their home. And then COVID. The government said you can't go into the slum areas. If we went into the slum area to distribute food and there was an outbreak and it was tied back to us, that's the whole foundation closed. So we had to do what everybody else was doing and create long lines. So we were very blessed. We had the help of the police. We also teamed up with other organizations that were doing it, like Mercy. And we said, okay, you've got the space near Big C. That's easy to get to. We've got the police. You've got some food. We've got lots of food. You cook some, we'll cook some. And let's pool our resources and do it together. So we had, this is just behind the Big C in South Patio Road. And this is like, we were just cooking massive amounts of food 3 or 4 times a week, just trying to feed the hungry. And then what we realized was, whoa, all that plastic and that foam, we are creating a problem here. So we can't fix the whole problem, but we can fix what we're doing. So we did a fundraiser and we bought those metal containers. And every family now has one of those 3-tiered containers, and they come to our housing estate. They're all registered, and we now feed about 350 families every week. So we're giving out approximately 2 tons of rice a week. So we cook food, we put it in the containers, and also it's a container where they can store food when they get home, so the ants don't go into it. They're not riding home or walking home or bicycling home, and the bag splits, so it's kind of helps a lot. So there they are receiving their 5 kilograms of rice. And, you know, a lot of companies were closing down, and we've got tins of baked beans. Fantastic. I'll come and pick up your 1,000 tins of baked beans. Because they used to run breakfast buffets, and they weren't doing breakfast buffets anymore. So we kind of cleared out every hotel, every restaurant of long life stuff that they had that they knew they couldn't use. So those containers with the blue lids are containers that we put jam. So we got massive containers, like drums of jam, and we put them into smaller containers and gave them out. So we just became very clever. So the pasta at the top, that was another restaurant that was closing down. So we took their pasta, cooked it up, and fed the hungry with it. So our scholarship, this was a tough one. So this is scholarship before COVID. This is scholarship during COVID. So learning went online. So you got to connect to your teacher through the Line Group app, and or using a phone or a tablet. Our kids don't have devices. So there was about 3 or 4 months where some of our kids had no online learning at all. You could go to the school and pick up some of the learning packages, but that was just the worksheets that went with the online learning. So after you connected with your teacher online learning, she would send you things and you had to print them out. Well, they don't have devices, they don't have printers. So we put out an appeal to the international schools and said to all the families, if you have a secondary phone that is sitting in a drawer because you bought a new one, can we please have it? And we got donations of phones, tablets, but it wasn't just as easy as, okay, here's your phone. We had to connect them to the internet. So these families don't use smartphones. They don't use tablets. So we had to show them how to use it. Then we had to keep a track on, what are you actually doing on this device? Are you looking at porn? Are you playing games? Because now we've given you the opportunity to access all of these things that you've never seen before. So it was much more difficult for the children who are up country, but they would have to take screenshots of their history. You have no history, that's warning 1. Second time, no history, that means you're clearing your history, give us the device back. If you had the device and you lived in Pattaya, 95% of the time, you're also on our food giving program. So once a month, you bring that device and we want to see your history. Okay? Game. Are you learning online or what? So again, that was another whole project that we'd never run before. So we were lucky we had SAFE, we had some other guys who knew about computers, and that's an ongoing thing as well. So these devices are on loan, so we have the right to take them back at any time that we want. We haven't taken any of the devices back. The children can keep them, they were all donated, but if we are finding them they're misused, we do have the power to take them back. And we also then had to connect them to the internet. So that was another thing, is like, I don't want all these internet things connected to my address and my personal details, but a lot of these people don't have a registered home address. They don't have a telephone number, all the information that you need to connect to the internet. So we ended up going to AIS. They gave us a great deal. They understood our problem. And we then used the money that we would normally send these kids to school using transport. We used that money to pay for their internet time. And then one more additional problem to that is I'm watching my teacher teach online. I don't understand what she's talking about, and my parents are illiterate. So there's no one I can ask for help. So school started back. Some of these kids are a year and a half behind in their studies. They have no idea what their teacher's been talking about. we did find some kids who had some very good entrepreneurial skills. A little 10-year-old boy all of a sudden had all this money. I said, Paul, where are you getting the money from? He said, my friends want to play games online all day, so I sell them the answers to the worksheet. So he set himself up this little e-wallet, and he was getting all these funds in. So great entrepreneurial skills, love your out-of-the-box thinking, but we need to put a stop to that. So that was a bit of a funny story. So our church, we run a church. So this was pre-COVID, and this is COVID. So our church goes on a Saturday afternoon. It's not you come to church, you get food, it's if you want to come, you're very welcome to come. And mental health was a big thing during COVID. A lot of people struggling. And we found a lot of people saying, we want to join your church. So now that our scholarship kids have devices, now they can join online church. If you told me 3 years ago I would have an online church, I would laugh at you and go, impossible. So that was one of the upscales, and one of our kids ended up in quarantine. And this really humbled me because she came onto church and she was sharing her testimony. She said, I'm stuck here in quarantine, but I'm so happy. And she was in this tiny room that had no balcony, no opening windows, one queen-size bed, stuck in this room with her uncle, her grown male cousin, and she's 16, all sleeping in the same bed in this teeny-weeny room. Guess what? And I've got a room, and look at this clean, fluffy pillow. And she just hugged the pillow for the whole half an hour she talked to us. And she said, and guess what we've got? I said, what have you got? She said, there's a toilet in the room. She said, I've never had a room where there's a toilet inside. She was so excited about this toilet that they had. And she said, and then 3 times a day they knock on the door and we open the door and there's food there. And I thought, wow, how many people would be so excited to be sharing a queen-size bed with 2 other guys, 14 days, and her pleasures were, I've got a fluffy pillow, I've got a toilet, and food. I was like, God, teach me to be like her. So we have clothing bins, so we've been getting lots of donations through our clothing bins, and kids grow in 2 years. Clothes wear out. I've got no money for food. I certainly don't have any money to even go to the second-hand market. So the uptake on the amount of clothes that were needed was huge. So there was a bin at Fraser's and there was a bin at Loft, and they're getting picked up this week because people are throwing garbage in there. The one at Fraser's, people are climbing into the boxes to take the stuff to sell it. The boxes are also degrading with the paintwork and everything. And in Australia, we have a big problem with people climbing into clothing bins and dying because they can't get out. So they're becoming an eyesore, they're becoming a problem for the businesses, so they're getting collected and they're going to international schools, which is where we get the really good stuff anyway. So Regents has 3 boxes, and Hand to Hand collects all those. Tara Patana is going to get another box, and Tara said, well, we'd like to take the box, but we support Bunchu. I said, great, take the box, and everything in the box goes to Bunchu. Because again, this is not about how much stuff can Hand to Hand get. So, and then St. Andrews is also going to pick up another box, and then people in the city can always bring clothes to us. So here's people getting their stuff. Housing and job training, this took off. So here's a grandma. Mum goes to jail, don't know where dad is, got no money, COVID hits, can't feed my grandkids. So the day she arrived, those bags they're holding in her hands is all they had. She arrived and she said, my grandchildren haven't eaten for 3 days. So that's where our housing estate is not just housing, it's a Thai community. So you come in, first thing we're going to do is going to feed you. Now do you want to have a shower? Now the kids can go play with the other kids. Now can you tell me your story? And so she stayed with us for about 4 or 5 months. We got the kids their uniforms, because even though they were going to school online, a lot of the schools said that kids had to get dressed in school uniform. So even though they weren't going to school, they still need their uniform. And so Grandma was able to, she had a safe place. We found extended family, and we got her back with family. And that is the heartbeat of everything we do, is get these people back to families. So this was our housing estate that we, someone in America gave us $250,000 and said, buy land, build houses. So we did that. That was about 5 years ago. And that's what the housing looks like now. So we've got solar, thanks to the Irish Embassy. Someone gave us some old pallets, so we pulled them apart. We started making furniture. So we just went onto YouTube. We worked out how to make it. Bosch says we think you need some power tools. So Bosch gave us power tools. So when COVID happened, a lot of people lost their jobs. And, we met one guy on the street, and he was crying, and he said, I've never been homeless. I don't know how to live homeless. I used to work in a restaurant. The restaurant gave me my accommodation. The restaurant sent my children to school, and the restaurant gave me a small amount of money. Well, when the restaurant closed down, no housing, no education, no money. I have nowhere to go. So the poor actually became the rich, because the middle class people who became homeless were going to the poor and going, where did you get that rice? And it was just so encouraging, because the stories that came from the families that we've been feeding for years, when people would come and say, where did you get that rice? My family can't eat. Our people would share half of what they had. And yes, they've got the heart of hand to hand. It's not mine. I'll share what I've got, and I'll show you where to get some. So that was really good. So we started this food growing program. Again, the Irish Embassy gave us a grant. And the idea was to bring in people who had no jobs and teach them to garden, grow food, sell the food back to us. Now you've got an income. Or you can go to market and sell it, and we'll feed the hungry with the food that you've grown with all our resources and we bought back off you. But again, it's about self-esteem. I can contribute something valuable to this community. I have purpose. And because, mental health was a huge thing. And if we could keep people busy in meaningful activities, even if it cost us twice of what it was going to cost us to go to market and buy it, it's not about the food. So we started a gardening project, and then I realized I don't have any water. And sometimes water can get cut off from the Pattaya City. It was going to cost us a fortune. So we sunk a well, 87 meters, and we hit water. And so much water, we have to put a pressure pump on it because it gushes out too fast. It's beautiful, fresh, clean water, and so we now have a gardening project. And so we got recycled milk containers, and we're growing herbs and spices in these racks. So the little old ladies who are living in our housing that can't get down on the ground and dig a hole, they can walk around and they can snip the herbs and spices off the top. I've got something meaningful to do. I have purpose. We got very creative. And here's what we can grow. We don't know how to grow anything. We just we went to meet Chai, Cabbages and Condoms, contacted him and said, okay, we're going to grow food and we have no idea what we're doing. So he said, send some people down to his garden, which is at Cabbages and Condoms here in Pattaya. And our people spent a week there. And his people who were growing that garden taught our people. And then we started and we ran into some problems. And he said, okay, send your team to Buriram for a week. And we got more training. And so again, it's really nice to see foundations working together. He had something that we needed. And he's like, anytime you need training, you just pick up the phone and we'll help you out. So, but yeah, you can see what we're growing. It's pretty good stuff. And so this is some of the herbs and spices that have been harvested for our cooking for one of the weeks. And so the next part of the process was these people that we've trained to garden, go to another community, teach them. But it costs money. You need water tanks. There's no electricity, so you need solar pumps. You need soil. You need gardening tools. Right? So we found sponsors, and this is now a garden that's growing in Nong Yai 11, and they're off and going. So if they run into problems, they pick up the phone and say, hey, everything's dying, or we haven't got enough water, or whatever. And everything they harvest, they can either eat or sell, up to them. And we want to replicate that model over and over and over again. So, you know, the first time you do it, you run into, you run into hassles like we didn't realize that, yeah, we're going to need a pump and we don't have electricity. So then we had to go and source solar pumps. So, yeah. But look at the stuff that we're growing. And again, it's about putting people into meaningful employment. And then we got chickens. So we built a chicken coop. We got chooks. But we wanted, you know, it cost us 200 baht for every chook. So to cover the cost of the 200 baht, the chooks, we said, if you want to give the chicken a name, it's going to cost you 200 baht. So we got all 24 chickens' names, and everyone paid 200 baht to name their chicken. And the chickens are actually tagged, so if you've named a chicken and you want to come and see your chook, you can. You know which one's your chook. So now the chickens are laying anywhere between 20 to 25 eggs a day. And again, we're feeding the hungry with it. We don't have enough eggs to go to market and sell, but we have enough hungry people. And these are all jobless, homeless people that we've trained how to raise chickens. And on Sunday, some of our older kids, part of our life skills program, go and help take care of the chickens. So the first week when I came back, there was literally a girl crying, I'm scared of the chicken. And we, you know, just gently, just stand at the gate, look at the chickens, and they're not going to follow you because you don't have the food. They're going to follow where. So just stand inside. On Sunday, she was in there collecting the eggs. So again, overcoming fears, giving them new skills. One day when they grow up and they're somewhere, they can raise their own chickens because they now know how to do it. Masks became a very big problem at the beginning of the pandemic. You can't go out unless you've got a mask. You can't join a food line unless you've got a mask. You can't get a mask because you haven't got any money. So what do? So we worked with the doctors from the hospital, and they showed us exactly what the 3-layered fabric masks need to look like. So we got the fabric, we made the patterns for different sizes, we gave the fabric, the patterns, the scissors, the cotton, everything they needed in packages to 20 people. And we said, you sew the masks, bring them back, and we'll pay you. So we paid for the fabric, we paid for them to sew them, and then we gave them out for free. So we've given out over 10,000 fabric masks. Some of them, you know, grandmas who can't see are sewing masks. So some masks we paid for, we had to undo them and get the sewing machine on and re-sew them. But it's not about just getting masks made. It's about this grandma can now feed her family because she thinks she's sewing masks. So, yeah, the quality, we've definitely quality checked. And so here's the people getting the masks, and here's a little girl making sure her disabled daddy has his mask on. So that was very special. And so then we used the opportunity to teach cooking. So the Thai ladies up there were all people, homeless, no jobs, no education. So we brought them in, and we've used this time to teach them how to make brownies, how to make pizza, how to make bread. So now when restaurants and stuff are opening up, I can go and apply for a job because I'm now a skilled laborer. I know something that I didn't know before COVID. And when we were cooking, we were cooking up to 500 meals 3 times a day, 3 times a week. On 4 staff, that's impossible. So we brought these people in, we taught them how to cook, and we fed the hungry with that. So, and then during some of the times when it wasn't, COVID wasn't holding us back, some of the foreigners said, oh, we'd like to do something. I said, here's the deal. You can come and pay for Thai cooking lessons. And we'll teach you how to make 1 meal. And you can pay 11,000 baht, and all the food that you cook will go to the hungry. So they love that idea. I can learn how to make something Thai and feed the hungry at the same time. And this is our ice cream man. So ice cream man, he has a disabled wife and son, can't feed his family. No one's out on the streets buying ice cream, so we say show up for free. We send him to Krujar's place, the anti-human trafficking place. He gives out ice cream there for free. Give us a list of how many ice creams you gave, and we'll pay you. I have enough money in my ice cream budget to last me to the end of the year. You wouldn't believe the number of people that are interested in ice cream. So again, he's able to sell his ice cream. The guy he buys the ice cream off is also in business. So now we're feeding the Russians and the Ukrainians. Because there's, one lady, we started this because a Mama Noodles factory in Bangkok sent us 4,700 Mama Noodle cups. And they said, if we send these to you, will you reach out to the Russian-Ukrainian community? Sure. I didn't expect anyone to show up. But families, one lady, she said, my husband worked for a Russian company. Russian company's gone bust, of course. No income for 2 months. My husband's run away from me, left me with 2 children in a foreign country with no money. I need food. We're giving these Russian people rice and hot and spicy noodles. Not one of them have said, got any potatoes? They're happy to get whatever they can. So there are some people who are stranded here, who are in dire straits. So we've got someone that's helping them for free to kind of try and work out their visas. So there's me in the truck trying to transport all these people, because if you've ever been to our centre, there's no public transport. So now we've got a place on South Patio Road where they can come every Thursday. And last week we had someone said, I want to give some money. So we did. We bought potatoes and onions and carrots and all those kinds of things that they would put into their stews. So, and this is our other part of the STEM project, the $11,500 that I got. These are kids on Saturdays and Sundays. They've learned everything from Word to Excel to PowerPoint to online safety, setting up email accounts, and they're now learning to do animation and put videos together. And our budget for the grant included enough to employ 3 computer teachers for a year. And so thank you. That's what we've been up to.
Say, Margaret, my question is, this whole time you were gone, you're trying to finance all this. I know a lot of times I would see on your Facebook page that you'd have the Norwegians were very generous, and a lot of them went back home. I'm just wondering how you made up the shortfall during this time to pay for all these projects.
That was the big struggle, because a lot of companies that would give to us regularly, well, they went out of business. A lot of restaurants that would give to us, they were barely keeping alive themselves, so they didn't have enough either. So that was one of the biggest things that I was trying to do when I was in Australia, is fundraise, because you know, we have infrastructure. We have a preschool, we have a housing complex, and unfortunately, when you apply for grants, people want a project. They want to put in solar, or they want to buy computers, but they don't want to put in money to buy 2 tons of rice a week. And so we kind of got to a point where we can't eat our walls. And so that was a huge struggle. So I did a lot of fundraising, a lot of posting pictures on Facebook, did lots of monthly appeals. And still, our biggest need is rice. I mean, when you're giving out 2 tons of rice a week, it's a lot. So what we do is we try and buy it direct from the farmer. So again, he's the one, not Macro, not Big C, not Tesco, getting money from us. That we buy it direct from the farmer. But yeah, we're always in need of people to bring us rice, or donate money for us to buy rice. Thanks.
Margie, location and contact. How
Yes.
do we get in contact?
So Peter, stand up, wave your hand. Peter's standing there. He's got some name cards of mine. So if you want to know my telephone number, our email address, or whatever, pop over and see Peter. Unfortunately, the cards are in short supply because I've ordered them months ago and they still haven't come. So if you want to take a photo of the card, or you want to take a card, then all the contact details are on there. Peter's going to stay at the desk, and you can go see him. Okay, sure. Peter, can you go do that? Thank you.
I always say that sometimes when there's no questions, it's because the talk was so fantastic. A huge round of applause for Margie. And I want to boast. I'm going to have a little boast here. I introduced Margie to Kunmi Chai, who got a mention there, became very important for you and stuff. And I remember, because she said, I'm very busy, I can't. I said, no, you want to come and meet Kunmi Chai. So I feel very privileged always when Margie can find the time to come, and it's that time of day. A very small token to add to your collection. It's just an amazing organisation, and what they do is just so profoundly moving. Who were here when there was a performance from the kids from Hand to Hand, when they did a performance, dancing, singing? Well, I was here.